Okay, we've just got to the lunch break on day 13 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 3, Phase 1. We've been listening to live evidence of Lois Austin.
We have, yes.
I'm joined by Hannah Sell. Like you were mentioned a couple of times.
Yes, and I'm going to be giving evidence on Monday.
Oh, it's Monday you're giving evidence?
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
But I thought Lois did an absolutely brilliant job today. Yeah. She was great.
Yeah. I think it was a really good example of how to engage with the inquiry, to give very full answers. She made sure that she actually got the points across that she needed to make.
Yes.
Some of that I thought was a bit ridiculous. I mean, a lot of her questioning today, particularly the stuff about violence, which I mean, regular watchers of the inquiry will know is like this sort of tired record. Yes. And I think because Lois was giving such fulsome answers, they kind of anticipated the follow-ups. Mm-hmm. So then, like the next question was like, well, I kind of covered that already, but yes. She kind of repeated it. We heard a lot about. Earlier on today we heard about Welling, but one thing I'd like to kind of talk about a bit is this event in Earls Court in the January of '94, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, just horrific images. We heard about it yesterday from Lewis as well, but just horrific.
Oh, appalling! Yes, it is. Look, we've all been activists a very long time, so you don't remember every detail.
Sure.
Remember Earls Court because it was so brutal.
Yeah.
And as Lois described, it was naive of us.
Yeah.
But it was unexpected.
Sure.
We thought the day was over. We were going home, and then we just got viciously attacked by the police. And what she said about her being targeted, I have no doubt about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was because she played such a leading role on the Welling demonstration. And they were after revenge, basically. It was a terrible day.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really, like the uses of campaigning around the inquiry, it's not just about exposing like the horrors of covert policing, but also the horrors of overt policing. I mean, like the way she described being like not just being kicked and beaten, but also like the slurs and like the extreme misogynist language that was used against her by officers. I mean, like something which I think like people who've like been involved in that campaigning know about, but like I think it still is like it still needs to be like shown. And she spoke a few times about how glad she was to be given the opportunity to talk about that on this kind of platform.
Yeah, absolutely, and we do have to use it to bring out the reality, because of course we're told that the police are a neutral force, and you know they only go to demonstrations in order to keep public order, and that was the line of questioning today, wasn't it? That's what they were there for.
Yeah.
But all of our experience is the main thing police do on demonstrations is cause trouble, provoke trouble, and on some occasions, like Earls Court, it wasn't even a demonstration. They were just out to attack us on our way home. You know, it was pure police violence. And by the way, I might get a chance to say this on Monday, but I wasn't beaten up that day, and I then went back to our offices and tried to get press coverage for it, and we could not get anything. And I am convinced that the police had put the word out that they didn't want this covering because we just couldn't get a word of what actually happened.
The story. I mean, there was we were taking through a lot of reports by Bute Francis largely, and it really showed the way in which, like Lois and yourself, you mentioned quite a few times, were really like kind of being targeted. You know what you were doing at particular meetings, a lot of detail. There was something I really want to talk about, but annoyingly, it's covered by a restriction order. I think you know what it is. Please don't mention it. But you know, I mean, it really just showed the way in which there was a really like kind of laser targeting of particular campaigners, particular campaigns at that time, and it really feels like the state was protecting the BNP.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And also because I don't think they were just infiltrating us for our anti-far right activity. I think they were infiltrating us because we were and are an effective socialist left organisation, and actually you can see that in some of Peter Francis and Carl O'Neill's reports. That's what they're saying, that they were getting close to the leaders of the militants. That's what it was about in reality. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's very clear. Have you got any other thoughts about what was said this morning? I mean, lots, but I don't know what else I want to say right now, having just come out of it.
Yeah, sure.
I suppose, well, I mean, I just think that despite not an attempt to discredit Lois's evidence, that's not fair, but despite the natural lines of questioning from the inquiry, what was shown was actually extremely clear. I mean, even that World in Action documentary, which I had forgotten about, and
it's so ridiculous.
But it's so ridiculous. But while the narrative is so ridiculous, what you actually see on screen is the police blocking every route and attacking the demonstration. So while there's this narrative about allegedly violent protesters over the top, what's on camera is the reality of what happened, and I think that anybody watching that could have seen that.
Yeah, very, very blatant, very obvious. And one of the lines actually of the question, just towards the end really, was about the credibility of Peter Francis. And like, obviously, like, there was a lot of criticism of what he said as an undercover officer, his reports, how fantastical they are, how ridiculous they are, the idea that all these people were really violent, the idea that there was some sort of preemptive dawn raids attacking BNP members, which I'm not being funny, but the inability to provide any evidence of that ever actually happening, just like shows how ridiculous it is. But and like the kind of the inquiry kind of suggesting that, seeing we're questioning that evidence, are we suggesting that his whistleblowing is somehow incorrect as well? Which I find a really strange sort of line that they're trying to go like, well, maybe this discredits him being a whistleblower, which I don't think is the case.
Of course it's not the case.
Yeah.
Everybody here knows that he was a police officer infiltrating YRE and militant. That's a fact. Yeah. And like Lois said, the fact that he came clean about that, which then led to pressure, which led to this inquiry, good on him for doing that. But that doesn't alter the fact that his statements of what he uncovered are extremely unreliable and are not an uncovering, but are frankly fantasy, a lot of them. Then we have to explain that, because that means there are reports calling militant members violent on police records when there were nothing of the kind. So, you know, we have to both recognise the facts that, yes, he was an undercover officer, without taking as gospel everything he said about what he spied on us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like, they were all fantasists. And from seeing so many of these undercover officers, the fantasy isn't unique to Peter Francis. No. It's not that he was a personal fantasist, it's that the SDS was a fantastical unit. And like,
he was been asked to fantasise fundamentally.
Exactly. And like, you know, that him as a whistleblower, like any whistleblower would be a fantasist, because they were all bloody fantasists, you know. And I mean, I think it's very telling that, I mean, we saw it a lot yesterday, a lot of the questioning that went to Lewis was around this, and that there's 12 civilian witnesses before we hear from Peter Francis. That's more than double the number we've had from any of the other former police officers who are deployed. And it really feels like we're increasingly going to get this sort of idea that, you know, can we trust the whistleblowing of Peter Francis about the other things around the unit, you know? Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
It will be, indeed.
We're on the lunch break now. This afternoon we'll be hearing from Dan Gilman.
Yep. That's right.
Who was mentioned a few times this morning.
He was, yes.
One of the stewards, somebody who Lois Austin credits as like basically saving her life at Welling by getting in the way of her being beaten too badly.
Yeah, I mean, he was someone who was a regular steward for us and did play that role often. Yeah, absolutely. And also was at Earl's Court and was arrested. Having basically stayed with Lois all day in case of a police attack. He was arrested, then she was attacked.
I mean, as well as being spied on by Peter Francis, he was also spied on by Carlos Araki. I'm trying to get the pronunciation right. That was something this morning. So we'll be hearing a bit about that. Is there anything you're looking forward to from what he's likely to be a question about?
I mean, I'm looking forward to the whole thing. Nothing specific.
All right, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Yeah, it'll be really good to hear from you. I look forward to your evidence on Monday. Hopefully you'll be able to join us again in one of these videos. Thanks for joining it. We'll be doing more videos later on after we hear from Dan Gilman's evidence, and I'll be doing a Twitter Spaces tonight, just sort of wrapping up the entire day. Thanks for now.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Right, now I'm going to